All right. Welcome anyone who's listening to us later, and the Doing Good crew here. Might be expecting a couple more people. Let me check Twitter, make sure we don't have anyone knocking on the door.
John Nicholas, you're looking, I don't know, like both relaxed and fatigued.
Spirit animal.
Yeah,
That's a great.
That's an English bulldog for you.
Spencer, it's great to see you in electronic person. I don't know how many messages we've exchanged on how many different platforms.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
I see you too.
Thanks.
In fact, Spencer, why don't you kick us off while Keith wrangles the Twitter cats? Why don't you just give us a quick little overview of what you did last week in DC and kind of bring Doing Good up to speed on that as well?
Sure, yeah. So last week was on the 19th. Lobby 3 and I think 5 other organizations, including Humanity Forward, Blockchain Association, Republic, Circle, and maybe one other one, all kind of co-planned this kind of Web3 impact lobbying conference, and got Andrew Yang to show up and gave a little talk there. Carly Riley, the host of the Overpriced JPEGs show, which I think is a Bankless podcast, she was there because she's now, I think she did marketing for Andrew Yang's campaign. And so she was there. She moderated a panel of a few guests from these various organizations. And we kind of had this conversation of how this technology can impact democracy and what the current state of like literacy and understanding among legislators is. And it was a pretty optimistic and well, it turned out well, the event, and we ultimately had like an optimistic note on where things were going.
That sounds great. Awesome.
Really desperate to hear, Spencer, like, how did you get a vibe on the level of Web3 literacy amongst lawmakers?
And based on what I've been told, I think there were like the two big failures recently of Terra and Celsius are kind of could be used as examples of like why there needs to be strong regulation. But I also get the sense that the work that all these actual lobbying groups are doing, meeting with them and trying to show a lot of the non-financial applications of this technology, I get the sense that progress is being made, and that there isn't just this kind of wholesale antagonistic approach that legislators are taking. I still, again, indirectly still get the sense that Republicans are a bit more open to it just from a libertarian angle, but I don't get the sense that Democrats are going to be like stonewalling this thing. But maybe that's just optimistic of me, but that's the sense I got from this meeting we had.
And just to clarify, I heard you say you don't think it's going to be hostile or antagonistic. It is not going to be.
I don't, that's not the impression I got from this based on what they were reporting from their interactions. But it's, and also the big thing they were emphasizing, because this conference had a bipartisan kind of vibe to it, and people there were bipartisan, and they were all kind of in agreement saying that we need to like work together to make sure that this doesn't become a politicized sector, because once it does, it becomes so much harder to actually make any progress, and you just get caught up in optics and rhetoric and just like infinite. So like I'm confident that we collectively can do that. I get, especially around Yang's whole scene, there's like a non-partisan kind of solutions oriented ethos there that I think is strong and could drive this further.
That is very hopeful.
Yeah.
Did the conversation wander into DAOs at all? Because Doing Good is launching their DAO now. So, and then we're navigating ours. Did was that talked about at all, or was it just more the crypto perspective?
It was mainly crypto. Someone in the audience did ask about the UkiDAO case and about like securities offerings and everything. And there was a lawyer on the panel. I forget his name or which group he was representing. This was recorded, so I would imagine it would be put on YouTube. And he was, saying all, usual disclaimers, but that, like talking about like the securities angle there, I think someone maybe asked about non-transferability. So like the tokens as securities and the implications for token holders there was addressed, but it didn't really get into DAOs beyond that.
So Wendy, why don't y'all go ahead and tell us more about Doing Good DAO? And I mean, y'all are rolling out a DAO in the height of all of this conversation here. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you so much for that invitation and for the invitation for all of us to join. It's great to meet you guys. I'm actually gonna, for the DAO and kind of the immediate roadmap, I'm gonna hand off to one of our founders, who is Andy. Mel and I are members of the founding team, but Andy is probably closest to the bleeding edge of every aspect of the roadmap. And so I want to hand to Andy to talk about what is going on at Doing Good. And there's probably two or three big things right now.
Thanks, Wendy. Sure thing. I know you yourself, Mel, Sammy, all are equally close to the bleeding edge, but I'll take the first stab at it with what we're doing at Doing Good. Yeah, so I guess I'd frame it in the aspect of how we just recently released our manifesto. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to read that, but that was kind of like our chance to share what drives us, why we're doing what we're doing in like the most broad aspect, I guess, and like the challenges we see in the world and why we're so optimistic about Web3 and the technology, but more so the technology, the people, and the different projects that we're coming across in this journey ourselves. And kind of the vision with launching the DAO is opening up from just our core team who's been working towards a solution, a piece of the puzzle that we think is important to advance the space, and making sure that we're collaborating and working with others in the space that also are bringing pieces of the puzzle that are like creating this new future that I think we're also excited about. So that's the idea with launching the DAO, is that first we're approaching other impact DAOs, other impact communities, and other projects that we think align with our values, and inviting them as what we're calling these community members, as we think it's so important that we're working close together. And then from the community members, also extending this invitation to the Doing Good DAO to the members of these other DAOs. And that's the idea with this allow list, where all these other community projects are sharing their community members to also like extend hopefully value to their communities as well, as, hey, this is what Doing Good's doing. They would like to invite you as well, or everyone else, into their piece of the puzzle. And as Doing Good DAO, this kind of collection of or mesh network of other projects, individuals in the space that are trying to do good, as we say, in like the cheesy broadest standpoint, in building forward. So yeah, that's kind of the overarching, I guess, vision and idea of launching a DAO in this manner with community partners. And then what's this Good Souls membership is, which we can get into much more detail there too. I guess from there, maybe I'll pass to Mel if there's anything to add there, or if taking it forward into what the Good Souls membership is as well.
Thanks, Andy. You did awesome. Not much to add, but excited to go into the Good Souls. So first, just to say that our community and our intention from the start has been to really create tools that empower ourselves and others as creators to be able to do good. And so when we started on this journey, we learned from each other. Our team is all around the world, from our community and from creators. And from there, we also were paying attention to many of the discussions and the conversations that our partners and that community were having with us on Twitter or everywhere. And we were listening to really create tools that were needed for impact. And that's why for us, it's so important. And we're so grateful to have you guys as JournoDAO in our community with the membership and the community members within. The protocol was built from that kind of insight and perspective that many brought into the conversation. And for us, it's really important that we're able to make this protocol inclusive. So anyone that wants to do good can come in and be rewarded by the act of doing good, right? So the membership for the soulbound tokens essentially awards and provides, of course, you guys as JournoDAO, any community member in your community to come in and have a discount into the membership. There are membership, soulbound membership tiers. I want to show you how some of these look like. So this is our nucleus, which is, if I click this link here, will take us to the video where you can actually see the movement of the NFT with the music that is absolutely beautiful. And we have the tier 3, the seed, the tier 2, the heart, and the first tier, the angel. So each of these come with their own set of perks, and they essentially allow the partner allow list, also the beta access to tools. And I just want to stop here for a second and say that for us, the purpose of having members come in is really so that we, as Andy was mentioning earlier, can put all of these little puzzle pieces together. And so as community members putting them together, as individual members putting them together, and by coming in the genesis of our membership launch, we have this future membership discount, meaning that whenever you renew your membership in the future, there is this discount that carries through for all future memberships that you purchase and you join on with. There's also, as I was mentioning, rewards that we are rewarding the community. So I'll get into the protocol in a little bit and kind of explain how that looks like. And so just here you can see some of the different tiers and the supply and the prices along with this. So here it's about $10 or $15 on top of the discount that you receive from JournoDAO. So about 25% discount on those $10 to $15, depending on the price of ETH at the moment. And this is really for us to make it, as I mentioned, accessible for anyone who wants to do good. We want to hear everyone's perspectives. We want everyone involved. We want to really collaborate and come together and create the tools that are needed so that we can all feel and have the empowerment to do good in anything that we do. As I mentioned, I'll talk a little bit about the protocol, but I want to get through this so you guys have it. Also, just want to share that we are having quadratic funding for all of the impact organizations to be shared with the impact organizations and partnering impact DAOs. So if we reach certain goals like $500,000, 5% of the donations go to the quadratic funding pool. That max funding could look like 25,000 dispersed. So for us, it's really important that we continue showing examples and displaying that really in everything that we do, we can do good. We can collectively have that consciousness to do so. So this is just one of our ways for us to also thank the community and thank all of those who are having an impact through their projects, DAOs, and organizations, and support them. So I'm going to leave this screen here, but I'm going to talk about the protocol. Actually, it may be better if I just stop sharing. But so the protocol essentially, when we first launched Doing Good, it was a marketplace, and it was a way in which we could show to the Web3 community, the creators that were coming in and paying attention, and show that you can do good, NFTs can be used for good, and not have that negative ecological imprint that many were concerned about, which is why we launched on Polygon. There are no fees for any creators when they launch on Doing Good. And we onboarded Wendy and Rebecca and Colleen did an amazing job onboarding over 60 organizations with 100 in the pipeline. We were able to, during our beta, raise over 80,000 in donations for organizations in the platform, and work with amazing creators. One of my favorites, Paul Nicklin from Nat Geo, Squid Liquor, many that have really been focused on creating an impact through their creations. And so with that, creators have full control over whatever royalties they'd like to have. If there's 200 creators on a creation, they can put all 200 creators on there and disperse the royalties, and see that the funding is going to the organization of the impact organization that they want to support. So for us, the marketplace is really a way to come in during a time when there was a lot of buzz in the space and show, hey, you can actually use this for good, while also establishing transparent funding for organizations, for nonprofits. The protocol really also establishes transparent impact. So in the protocol, we can have an impact topic that would be what we call a guild. I'm in Colombia right now, so I'm going to take the example of empowering creators in Colombia. And so that would be my guild topic. And any projects that are having an impact under that. So for example, crypto murals, let's say Ruta N, many different organizations that are contributing to that guild topic would go underneath. And essentially they would report impact, and anyone can report impact. It can be myself as a citizen, it can be a media reporter, it can be someone that they've impacted, an actual creator, and it can be done through video, pictures, text, anything really that facilitates and is able to show the impact made. And I want to share an example of a time in which I actually would have loved this to exist. It was during Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. I was on the ground fundraising and distributing resources across the different parts of the island that were most affected. And most people felt most safe, I guess is the word, to donate to the governor's wife's foundation. There were many other organizations that were having that were local and were having an impact. At the end of the day, it came out a couple months after that some of the funds that were donated to the governor's wife's foundation were actually going to their pocket. And so there were other organizations that were smaller, but were having a larger impact and were actually moving these kinds of resources to those who really needed it. So for us, this is a way in which we can really create trust between anyone who's supporting or impact organizations, any creators when there's a crisis, solving any coordination issue, making it really easy to not have to say, hey, which impact organizations are going to have to receive the money and disperse it. No, you can see the impact reported by these impact organizations. And as a sub-DAO, which is what the guild is, say, okay, this organization has reported most impact. Let's give them a larger percentage, for example. And you can trust because there are also those in the community that are validating that impact. So now with this protocol, as I mentioned, we established transparent impact. So transparent funding, transparent impact. And overall, as a society, there's this idea that you have to have a lot of money to be able to do good. You have to, have this kind of system and be in the system. And we're here to also show that in every act, you can do good and you can be rewarded. And so those who participate in the protocol, those who are reporting impact, those who are creating guilds, those who are creating creations to support these topics are all rewarded within the protocol. And those are part of the rewards that you see in those individual memberships that you'll see have an extra percentage on top of rewards. And that's because by being a Genesis, a member and joining in the Genesis membership, we want to really appreciate and say our thanks and for you guys to be rewarded in that. And so that basically covers it. Super happy and welcoming to any questions that you guys may have. We'll provide any of these additional information that I showed on screen. We can share with you guys. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that explanation, Mel. That was really good. One of the reasons we really, when y'all reached out, wanted to incorporate doing good in one of our tool sets to, sorry, I'm at school right now, so it's a little loud, to teach to photojournalists is as a very simple platform to use. I used it last year with an exhibit at ETH Denver, and I was actually surprised at how intuitive it was and how simple it was once I got past the Polygon bridge, which is just my fault. But yeah, that was, so I see that as a tool that a lot of photojournalists can easily embrace, but then also justify participating in a system they don't necessarily understand, but they've also only heard about it through a negative lens, through the ecological impacts. So this it kind of kills both of those arguments. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And just to add, super happy that you were able to have that experience. And just to add too, we are working on going live on Ethereum. So you won't have to do that Polygon bridge. And so that everyone has the option of, you know, paying a little lower gas fees and using Polygon or going straight with Ethereum and not having to bridge.
And honestly, to kind of like tie all of this together as well, it's one of these opportunities that I think that we all have in front of us that, you know, we can kind of change that narrative of what it means to do good, and thinking that like doing good is meant to only be charitable or donation based, you know, like, or the idea that sustainability isn't meant to be profitable. There can be profit made in doing good. There can be, you know, like, and this is something that needs to change, I think, fundamentally, and slowly, one by one, we get to do this with something like what we're creating here and bringing all these different pieces to the puzzle to make this thing happen, but also changing the fact that, like, you know, what's the biggest money making industry in the planet is the military industrial war complex. And how can we make an equivalent of that, but for good? Right? Like, and if it does exist, why isn't it louder? So hopefully that's where we can kind of insert doing good and the ethos and the technologies that we're kind of bringing forth to the table to make that type of impact.
For sure.
I think that's a great point. There's 3 great points in there. And Keith, I see you mentioning a 4th, which is that Ethereum, if that's, Crystal, what people are still thinking, that Ethereum is, that it's still, you know, as much electricity as Switzerland, we know from our experience of watching the news in the middle of September that Ethereum made a cutover to a much more efficient way of processing, just use normal human language, of processing blockchain transactions. So now apparently the reduction in consumption of energy has gone down by 99.5%. So now, as you say, Keith, even Ethereum is, it's climate friendly. It just is climate friendly. There's this pretty interesting quote from the UN Directorate General. She was at a conference in 2021, I think. And the question came up around, well, how is it possible that the UN is actually has a crypto innovation fund? Isn't this everything that is bad? And she said, I understand that some people, I'm paraphrasing, I understand that some people, a lot of people believe that blockchain is one of the big problems and crypto is a big problem. From my perspective, she said, crypto and blockchain are the climate solution. They are the solution to climate problems we have. And I think if you go deeper into her interview, what you see her make mention of is for the purposes of tracking carbon, and it was more on the supply chain piece. It was a very sophisticated view from my perspective. And I didn't plan to go down this road. If I could just share one other point that I'm a news junkie and come by it fairly honestly. I worked for a newspaper for 5 years. And we recently hosted ETH Barcelona, the Ethereum conference in Barcelona, in beautiful Barcelona. And I hosted a panel where we had two guests actually from Ukraine, one who is working on the redevelopment of Ukraine, the redevelopment fund for Ukraine. And she told a very interesting story. You guys probably know it because if you're, journalism enthusiast as I am, I'm sure it doesn't come as news, but it speaks to this story of decentralized journalism and basically on-chain reporting. And it is the story about how, of course, crimes against humanity and instances of genocide are, of course, very difficult to prove, in large part, although not exclusively, because evidence is very hard to come by. And it has, of course, been a huge challenge in the past. But what they are doing in Ukraine now is using decentralized reporting, people on the streets who happen to have their phone and they still have a Wi-Fi connection. We're very fortunate, they still have a Wi-Fi connection, and uploading photos and interviews at the moment that, for instance, in Bucha, the atrocities occur. And even as there were people from one side of the war saying we were never there, there's already evidence uploaded to the blockchain. Of course, it says everything here says you were, including the trucks, the GPS, and of course the blockchain that's immutable. So we have this fantastic on-chain evidence, gathering evidence that is going to change, or if we're lucky, has already changed the nature of possibly, I'm a little too hopeful in saying this, possibly discouraging war, because things aren't going to be as much of a secret anymore as they used to be. Big exhale. Thank you for listening to that point. But I think JournoDAO and Doing Good have a tremendous place here of overlap and interest when it comes to, as Mel described, the protocol, and that decentralized reporting and on-chain tracking of impact. This is all something that's natural for JournoDAO and its members. And this is the thing that Doing Good and the impact protocol is building and will soon release, and allows scale to occur very easily.
Well, one quick question about Doing Good. One of my favorite parts about this was the manifesto and just that whole functionality. And I'm curious if you guys know if that is going to be a tool that is released with Doing Good, or is that just something to facilitate the manifesto? Or
Are you referring to like the signing and the?
Yeah, like the ability to sign some document with your Web3 wallet, or is there like another tool that already exists that you used for this?
That's a good question. I know there's been other projects that have used it, and I think some of the source code is open and some of it we tweaked. Okay. Yeah, I wish our tech guy was here to answer it for sure, but I think it's like a mix where it's like there's stuff that's like already open, and then there's some stuff that we had to tweak, and I don't know if we have it available yet or not. Our overarching philosophy and principle is to create open source stuff, and we're in the process of opening more and more of what we're doing, including like the soulbound token, including this, etc. That, yeah, I think our hope is to share that with our community partners and the wider ecosystem to leverage these tools that are great for building community and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to add to that, as I mentioned earlier, that part of what why this is so important for us to just have, and why we're so grateful to have you guys and just all individual community members and partners, is because having a collective community that can say, hey, for example, it would be really cool to have this open and as a tool that all of these communities can use, right? This is part of what helps and what is so important, why we're here, is to be able to understand and make tools that are going to be helpful for others as well. And so, for example, for ETH Barcelona, we did the NFT tickets where once you use your ticket, it was burned, and you could also vote on a impact organization to for us to do quadratic funding matching towards, as well as we had the scavenger hunt. And actually both of these tools have been used again by other communities that had reached out, like Crypto Murals here in Colombia. They had a street art tour and they used our scavenger hunt tool that we used for that, all for supporting impact organizations as well. So I just want to say that maybe even though it's not available right now, this is the whole purpose, that we come together and we create these tools that are available for others. And I also want to just mention and just kind of like tie a little bow on what Wendy was saying earlier, the importance of all of you guys here and what you're doing, because storytelling is one of the most powerful things in the world. And being able to tell the stories of what's going on, the stories of good and the stories of what's important for others to know in a decentralized manner where it's not controlled, doesn't have an agenda, it is what it is. And so that's incredibly important. I myself sometimes watch the news and, to be honest with you, feel hopeless or helpless, I should say. And something that I'm really excited about is being able to, kind of like share with others things that are going on, but then also really easy way that they can, in that same way of which they're seeing the report, support that cause or support, and also see the impact that is being made at the same time. So kind of like a little bit of a, kind of middle happy side to it, and trusting, being able to trust that's happening. And so just really grateful for what you guys do, because it's the stories that touch everyone's heart and really kind of makes you feel connected and understand what's going on, and be emotionally invested. And if we don't tell those stories, then it makes it really hard to understand why these projects are so important, why these impact organizations are so important, and what they're doing. So yeah, just wanted to share how grateful we are for that.
Yeah, and just to bring it back to what Wendy was saying too about the UN and the pushback, and that was a few years ago, the pushback on crypto and all of that. And I don't think anybody anticipated that we would end up in a public goods conversation in 3 years with DAOs and all of these complex organizations that are now empowered to actually address the issues that Mel's talking about and that Wendy's mentioned. And now we have all these tools, and so it's really cool to see y'all coming in too and supporting at scale with the amount of organization y'all have. I mean, I look at like your manifesto, and Spencer was so excited when he signed that. I remember you put that in the, you're like, what did they use? I'm like, I have no idea. But to see all these tools come together and all the openness and the sharing of the information, it really does allow this ecosystem to grow stronger. Because small DAOs like ours, we don't have the infrastructure or the resources to do something at scale. But it's a blast to see organizations that can, and then kind of lift everybody up at the same time. It's really fun to see. So
That's well, I mean, I could turn to Sammy, Andrew, or Mel, and we don't have to turn, Mel, you don't turn your microphone on at this moment, but Crystal, you said exactly what it is. With our work, the hope is that organizations and creators of any size, anywhere in the world, can do what they want to do and have the kind of exposure and bring additional attention. And by bringing additional attention to the stories and the impact nuggets of any scale, bring more value to humanity. You know, you just nailed it. And that's the hope. That's the hope. We started with big organizations, but that was only the intentions to do kind of a proof of concept. But the intention was always to look at folks who do something brilliantly and let them continue to do something brilliantly, and we'll contribute the part we think we do pretty well too. And that's the nature of, you know, as Andy said, making this as open source as possible and available free of charge. And yeah, you nailed it.
Thanks, you as well. And that too, I mean, I think what, you know, when we begin bringing in Web 2 or other creators that aren't familiar with this ecosystem, and you can introduce them to a tool that's easy for them to use and they understand immediately that there's social impact, then it does help onboard much faster. Like I've noticed just in conversation, I go to a school that's mostly Buddhist. So when I wander in this conversation, everybody's like, what? But then when I tell them, they're like, ooh, Bitcoin, and I'm like, actually, no. And then I'll just start rattling off examples of tools that allow social impact. It's just a technological tool that empowers that. And then there's like this little light switch that goes on. And then immediately you're like, oh, will you teach me that? So the more tools that are accessible like this, the more that it can just organically spread through communities as well. And the Johns down there, do y'all have, I know we've kind of, y'all look like you have things you want to say. I've kind of like hogged the mic. I got to hop off here in a minute and go to class, my yoga class, but got another 10 minutes or so. But does anybody, or Eric, if you're able to talk, does anybody else want to hop in?
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about the reporting aspect. Like if, you know, I'm trying to think of both JournoDAO and like, you know, others who might be contemplating, you know, registering and being part of the community. How does that work? Like if a creator does want to contribute a portion of their proceeds to JournoDAO, how does JournoDAO register as doing good?
Shall I jump on that one? So we are building and maintain a doing good social cause registry. And that too is going to be open. It's not going to be immediately, but we do the authentication of the organization, and we do our very best to also authenticate the control of the wallet. So those two pieces, it has an application, and Keith, if I haven't sent you the application, I will. And after you do the application, we then create the public profile page for JournoDAO, and it goes into the Doing Good Social Cause Registry. If you go to the home page, you can see a search field, and people will be able to, you'll be able to type in JournoDAO, your public profile page will come up. And when a creator wants to sell a creation and contribute proceeds to JournoDAO, you know, as Crystal very kindly, warms the heart to hear it. But when Crystal said that it's easier for a creator to do it, it's kind of it's a two-page automated, two-screen automated process. So I upload my creation as a creator, and I just have to set 3 parameters. What's the selling price? What's the name of the organization I want to benefit, JournoDAO, and you can search by SDG or search by name. And then what is the percentage that I want to go to the, is that still working? Thank you. The headset thinks it's going on and off. Thank you, Mel. Anyway, 3 pieces of data for the creator: the price, the name of the organization, and the percentage that goes to, I'll just turn this off, the percentage that goes to the organization. For primary sales, screen 2 is what do you want for secondary sales, percentage that goes to secondary, and that's it. The creator then has listed their creation, and JournoDAO is permanently attached to that creation and receives the primary sale proceeds, and then the secondary sale proceeds every time that NFT is resold. So the answer, the direct answer to your question is, I'll send you the application.
Yeah, and thanks so much for the question. This is the part I'm getting super excited about working with you guys going forward, and I think I wrote it in the chat, where I think our next step with the protocol is where like there's so much synergy and like what we want to do, and I think, as I understand, following what you guys are doing a great job with, is journalism in Web3. And with our protocol, what we're looking to do is kind of really release a new use case of that, I think. And this is what Mel was trying to explain with the impact reports, and how our tokenomic model is trying to incentivize and reward the people that are doing that really good work. So if I can like dive into it like a bit more into the details, hopefully not too much. We haven't released our white paper on this, so bear with us that we haven't fully released to the world the idea behind the protocol and the incentive mechanisms around the tokenomics. But basically, rather than just creators choosing a single nonprofit that they want to fund, they choose a topic, because that's something that we've learned the last year is often a challenge for creators, and all of us, is like we don't necessarily know which nonprofit is doing the best work always. We would rather fund an overarching issue, whether it's relief in the Ukraine, whether it's a natural disaster that happens, but rather like it's easier for an individual to support and fund a topic. And then within that topic is a guild or a community that's working towards the goal of that guild or community, whether they're, again, I think Mel gave the example, but natural disasters or other pieces. And once that you have funding that's going to this topic rather than just an impact organization, the money gets split into two pools, one for the actual nonprofits that are doing the work, and another pool that's for impact reporting. And funds go into this pool for impact reporters, and also the people that are signaling and validating that these impact reports are valid and truthful and helpful, so that those that are participating in this community have legitimate reporting and information to say, yes, this money should go to this nonprofit that's in this guild, because the impact reporters are showing that real work is getting done and that there's a true impact. So this is where like the idea is that like this is maybe this whole new incentivization, more so reward for those that are doing this work. And it's not necessarily just like click advertising type models for reporting. It's like, no, these reporters are sharing valuable information on impact being done, and some of the funds need to go to these people, because that's a challenge that we have in providing impact to the different spots. So honestly, I'm thrilled to be working with you guys. I think it's such a good fit for what we want to do with this protocol. What we, again, and we're going to iterate, we're going to improve. We want to work with other community partners that are closer to these individual aspects of it and can help us refine. But yeah, I think it's a spot on like connection with you guys.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. These are conversations we've been having internally a lot lately, trying to figure out this very thing. So I know we'd love to continue that conversation and help be a part of that, because we're actively working on solutions, if you can call it that, for that very thing. And I'm gonna run. Thank you all so much. Keith and Eric, I know y'all got a lot to talk about what Andrew just said. So I'm just gonna kick it over to y'all and I'll watch the recording later.
Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'd love to hear some more about kind of what that need is and how you guys are talking about it.
Yeah, well, what comes to mind for me is something that we're, each of our DAOs are going to run into, where, the thing that makes good journalism is not like universal, or like as we go into like local communities, like there's going to be, people and agendas that like we might not agree with, but like works for that community. Like, how are you thinking about like remaining neutral, and do you have any advice on that front? It's like, because journalism is maybe a little bit more concrete, but even the idea of good might vary wildly from like community to community. And so it's I don't know if explored that at all?
Yeah, that's a really good question and a big challenge. I think a lot of it, at least in how we're thinking of designing this protocol and the governance aspect of these guilds, is trying to both like put this curation and this like I guess to that point, decision of what's good and bad reporting into the stakeholders within that guild that care the most, and having this mechanism where those in the community are electing what we're calling guardians or good guardians of that community to basically take a very important role of very active moderation, maybe not the best word, but like curation, and basically this key role of like leadership within a community, but still having the larger community very participatory in the governance as well, and how funding gets split, which impact organizations can receive funding, which impact stories and the reporting can also receive funding. So yeah, it's I think it's the biggest challenge in Web3 and governance. But we're trying to learn from what we've read up on and research from other projects and other DAOs that work well, and trying to take a stab at what we think will work best. Yeah.
So there is this idea of like a local definition of good that's balanced with like the collective community, like
Exactly.
those can kind
Exactly.
of like
Exactly. So the protocol will, it's in like in a two-tier system, if you will, where there's a meta DAO or the overarching DAO that governs the guilds, which communities can form, which impact topics can form, if you will. Like, does the Doing Good DAO believe that there should be a Ukraine DAO, flood relief in Karachi impact communities? So there's like this high level governance that the overarching Doing Good DAO will decide which impact topics fall within the values and the principles of the overarching guild. But then once like the impact topics form, they have their own local or more specific boundaries, or I guess ability to choose for themselves more so how they're better organized. So yeah, that's the logic there.
interesting. Yeah, that's like a similar topography to the way we kind of view, like, you know, as we help like news deserts kind of form, like news organizations, you know, we can help a little bit, but once they get off the ground, then it's kind of like up to them to like manage whatever, because like we don't know, and it'd be really hard to convince people that it's a good idea for us to parachute into like all these places and like enforce our idea of like journalism or something like that. So hopefully we can keep sharing learnings on that as that goes forward, because it's very, very similar concerns.
A couple of implications of that come to mind, Keith, and one is, as you say, and this is also some of the stuff we hear from the World Economic Forum conference on what the big organizations were running a panel on how to remake humanitarian aid. And there was a considerable objection to giant humanitarian organizations, as you say, parachuting into, let's say, parts of Ukraine from New York. I mean, even as I say the words, it's crazy. But from New York and Paris and Brussels and London, and telling the folks on the ground, we've brought you the supplies you need. And they were very clear in this conference, saying, you know, you just can't. You just can't. You can do it, but it has nothing to do with addressing our humanitarian needs, and nor does it help us make the decision about when to transfer or transition to redevelopment. And that's nothing you can phone in. You have to trust the people on the ground. The other thing that comes to mind, and Andy, we haven't talked about this much, but I would imagine that we're also going to see some, over time, some movement. So I felt at home here when we started. I've been here for 3 to 5 months. I'm not sure I'm vibing with this sort of parameters anymore. I'm going to go someplace else. And Andy, we kind of expect that kind of migration.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, I think it's natural, and the design is intended for that, like easy switching. If it's not in the hearts of the community or individuals anymore to be supporting this, we're going to see those impact communities or such kind of fall off, and those that are like building strong mechanisms in every respect will grow, and they'll attract more people, and that's kind of just the nature, I guess, of those that are doing good work to get rewarded and grow and be able to do more good work. I think is the intention there.
Yeah, and how significant do you feel like, I'm interested in this role of like the impact reporter, and that might even be something like members of JournoDAO would be interested in doing. Do you view it as like maybe even being like a full-time thing, or is it kind of like a limited time engagement for like this one project, or like have you thought much about that?
Well, within the mechanisms of the tokenomic and the protocol, it's free, it's wide open. Like it'll be open for anybody to create an impact report, an impact story about any of the nonprofits or impact organizations that are within these guilds, and then they'll receive the funding from this pool directly. So it's not necessarily even like a paid position to like do impact stories on everyone. It's intended to scale with anybody that happens to be covering these nonprofits to also put a NFT impact report, impact story, attach it, so that those that are participating in this community get that information, can thank and reward them for providing the feedback to them to like continue funding. So
Cool.
So yeah, I think the intention is for it to scale, especially with a lot of impact organizations that are planning to come in. But we need an army of impact reporters and individuals, and hope this is like a really attractive, different new way for this field maybe to tap into Web3 and like in the not so, I guess, overbearing, I guess, first step. Like a single reporter would be able to try one time doing an NFT of their report about the Red Cross, and maybe get some money from it. Yeah, and maybe this is where like I'm excited to start talking, because you guys are much closer to this world and what might be right, but that's kind of the hypothesis, the assumption we've been working on within our research.
Yeah, that sounds great. I don't want to monopolize things. I have another question, but anyone else want to jump in?
I mean, in general, to the point you just made, Andrew, at least how I'm thinking about JournoDAO's role here, I'm starting to think in terms of clear processes we can lay out for journalists or photojournalists who want to make some positive impact or want to highlight a story that they don't think is getting recognition, or they just want to they just want to become a Web3 journalist and start making some part of a living that way. We can define clear processes for which tools we'd recommend, how JournoDAO can help in certain like consulting capacities. And so like that's how I'm thinking, almost in terms of human algorithms, like follow these clear steps to get involved, provide resources to minimize the friction there. But because I'm constantly find myself underestimating just how much like technical knowledge friction there is involved at every step, like for mirror.xyz, even if you're able to just do that on mainnet, that would still be kind of prohibitively complex for a lot of people, yet alone having to switch to optimism and like all these other steps just really kind of limits the amount of people that are able to either like put in the time to learn that, plus have the patience to learn all these things and have afford the gas fees and all that stuff. So I think as more and more that gets abstracted away and we can distill it down to like simpler and simpler processes, that's at least in my mind how this advances beyond just ideas. But yeah, like right now, at least in my mind, there still is a lot of complexity almost at every step, but it is getting better because there's demand for it to get better.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that's spot on what's needed and what you guys would be able to really share a lot of value there.
Well, and maybe you can give us some sense of how you're thinking about like your time frames and stuff. I know a lot of people right now are doing like financial planning for like 2023, and like I don't know, 2023 is like kind of opened up in my brain as like, oh yeah, it's time to like picture like what that could, and some of it's fun, some of it's a little like anxiety producing. But do you have any like just ballpark stuff that's on the horizons that you could tell us about? Like you mentioned the white paper and just anything interesting that we can look forward to.
Yeah, it's all rolling out here in sequence. Next will be this membership sale, this Genesis, inviting the community to work with us forward on this as it gets closer and closer. And the white paper accompanying that, we have a video that's going to come out in the not too distant future that explains this in more detail. And actually a lot of like the back end development of this protocol, as I've explained it, is about done. The DAO itself development is about done. We're working on more of the front end development over the coming months. I've actually decided not to put dates on stuff anymore because especially developing in Web3, it takes longer than we accept, and I'm not a developer, so I can't accurately put timelines on it, but we're making good progress on it, and I'd expect it, you know, in 2023 in the first half. I don't know, you know, like this is all coming out in sequence, and yeah, I hope that kind of helps without knowing exactly.
I might, oh, Sammy, you go ahead. I'll go after you.
No, the only thing I was just gonna, reiterate is the fact that, you know, we've been on Polygon this entire time, right? So another massive thing for us is us moving to ETH, right? And that being said, I mean, keep in mind that everything that we've done thus far with what Mel kind of brought up with us being a marketplace first and how that has really come about, even with us being on Polygon, we've been able to amass over $400,000 in sales. You know, if we're talking about USD, $400,000 in sales and over $90,000 going to social impact organizations on chain. So we can only imagine and hope that once this, you know, change into Ethereum and we start getting other types of artists and creators on board, that then kind of exponentially the hope starts going up even more. So that's another big piece of that puzzle, which kind of comes in line with us being a DAO and all the other goodies.
But Spencer, I think you raise a really good point, and there's some experimentation we can do with JournoDAO while these pieces are rolling out. And so I can follow up with you and Crystal, and we can start to put together that kind of sequence and make it as simple as possible, and then do a couple months of experimentation just on the on-chain reporting, to use your language, on the impact reporting, and get a vibe on what the signaling means relative to the reporting, which can also live inside JournoDAO. If that sounds interesting to you, it sounds amazingly interesting to me.
Yeah, I would just like to ask you, for you personally, what's your preferred means of communication here?
Thank you for asking, my friend. Given that we've been across it. I mean, maybe Telegram.
Okay.
Yeah, for you, me, and Crystal, and anybody else who has an interest. Great.
I would love to be a part of it. Yeah, we've been thinking a lot from the comm side, the storytelling of both creators and the impact that's made and how it ties to the impact reporting. So would love to be on there.
Yeah, we can get that set up after this and get that conversation going. Sorry, was someone else starting to say something?
Spencer, CC
Alright.
me on that too, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think all of us want to be there.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
Yeah, is it Eric? All right. Oh, yeah, everyone here. Yeah, sure. I'll put it in.
Well, cool. I don't know if
Love it.
you all allotted an hour or not, but I want to give people the option to hop off. We usually go until the half hour though, if you want to stick around.
I am late for another call, but this has been really great. Like seriously, I'm so happy to be here and speaking with you guys and looking forward to the convo to continue.
Yeah,
Thanks
likewise.
again. Awesome.
Cool.
Bye now.
All right, bye.
So I can get that set up now. Perfect. Is there anything else we wanted to cover about this, or should we just follow up async in the Telegram group?
All right, and also just for the people maybe listening later, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think is important for people, for context, or?
Oh, okay.
Could I just add that if anyone who's watching has any questions that weren't asked here and you want to ask them, there's so many ways you can do that. We have a happy hour every Friday on our Discord, and you can join us and ask any question. You might join and find us talking about our lives and what we're doing that weekend, or what the NFTs we are getting look like, or what we think is important and impact. It varies, but you can jump in, ask any question that you'd like. Or if you feel more comfortable and you don't think you can make it on Friday, you can ask it on our Discord. We have a Telegram chat as well. We're here, and we are really excited to just be able to hear you guys. We love meeting and hearing you. So like if you can join on Fridays, that would be awesome, but it's okay if you can't.
What time are they on Fridays?
Oh, right. Thank you. It depends on the time zone you're in. But I just changed time zones, so I want to make sure.
Yeah, same.
So yeah. So if you are in EST in New York or in the East Coast, that's 1 p.m. EST. If you are in California, that'll be 10 a.m. PST. If you are in Europe in CET, that'll be 7 p.m. CET. If you are in Colombia, which I doubt you are, but maybe that'll be 12 p.m. noon Colombia time. I don't know what the acronym is, but and let me share. Normally we share it on our Discord and Telegram, in our Twitter and Telegram, but I'll also drop the link here so that you guys can join, and maybe someone can copy it to whatever community chat you feel most adequate.
I'm down for a happy hour at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
A brunch happy hour, yeah.
Californians love their mimosas, so.
Oh man, it's so funny. Yeah, it's our happy hour has kind of evolved in so many different ways. In the past, we had someone in the community that would join with a ukulele and play and there'd be some really good vibes. Other times, like I said, we just talk about our personal lives, what we're doing, whose birthday it is, what the weekend looks like. It's all fun. So we're really excited to have you guys with us.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, DAO life can be pretty lonely, so I think that's a good point. We've been have you ever seen this app Gather? It's like gives you a little 8-bit game that you can walk around in and talk to people. We've been testing that out this week, so that's pretty. We've been having fun with that too.
Yeah, just baby steps into the metaverse.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, cool. I think we could call it here. I don't think we have quite enough time to like delve into any new topics. So why don't we call that a wrap?
Okay.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and we're so excited about the partnering between Crystal and you, Spencer. And even Keith. I get few other communications than the three of you. You are everywhere. Crystal is everywhere.
Yeah.
and quick and productive and prodigious. She's on it. So this is a real treat for us, and looking forward to the experimentation in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you guys so very much for having us. It's been a super pleasure to be able to just talk it out and let you guys know what we're all doing. Thank you for being a part of this with us.
Yeah.
We're so freaking excited. Oh man, there's so much to come. Thank you guys.
All right.
All
See
right,
ya.
cool.
All the best.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Guys,
Okay.
be well.
Yeah.